Hey everybody, welcome to Galactic Wisdom. My camera's a little bit high. I'm just going to move that down a bit. Well, I've got a lot that I want to talk about today. Now, in our event description, this is what I said. Sorry, our video description, our show description. Science specializes in a type of thinking that's rapidly uncovering truths about our universe. Aliens seem to be very advanced scientists. They are very advanced scientists. Does the next step in human evolution involve becoming more scientific? So that's really what this show is about. But I find myself in a position where for the last 2 or 3 shows, I've had things that I wanted to say. I've had like a set of notes laid out that I'm working through, and I haven't quite finished all the things that I want to say. So I'm going to jump around a little bit today and cover a few different topics. The first thing I'd like to do before I get into the science and the thinking thing is to talk about drones. Drones is the hot topic at the moment, and I have my opinions, so I thought, why not put my opinions into this show as well? Now, I want to be upfront and open and honest with people to start with. I don't know. Okay, I don't know the answers to the question of what's going on. But I do have enough knowledge about reality, about our world, about aliens, UFOs, industrial military complex, and things like that, to be able to tell you what I think is likely and what isn't likely. So I'm just going to put my little bit of my opinions into this drone discussion. First of all, I have seen online photos and videos being posted of drones. And there have been huge threads on social media with videos and photos of what, to me, I recognize immediately as a Star Wars fan as being TIE fighters and TIE defenders flying around in the skies. And these threads have got hundreds, some of them thousands of likes and comments. And a lot of the time, people are just not seeing that some of these posts are just completely made up. Some of these posts, some of these videos are coming directly from computer games, obviously Star Wars computer games, or artificial intelligence. So there are a lot of people out there just taking advantage of the situation that they can create fake content and throw it out there and people will believe it. Okay, so I think that cuts down about maybe 10% of the drone sightings at least. There is clearly a lot of misidentification. There's always misidentification out there when people go out and look into the sky. When I host my contact events, wherever I go, and I was thinking about this the other day, I've probably hosted more alien contact events than anybody else in the world, to be honest. I host, I go for 2 or 3 months at a time, touring around the US, hosting in this year, I got to about 30 different US states, hosting probably 60, 70 different in-person contact events. It's what I do. And the other days when I'm not doing that, I'm hosting meditations where we astrally project and reach out to beings astrally. So it's what I'm used to. And there is definitely at my events, and obviously in the news at the moment, a lot of misidentification. And it's easy to do. When you see a big bright light in the sky, because you're looking up, trying to find these drones, trying to look for UFOs, it's very easy to mistake, for example, a regular airplane that's heading in your direction when the headlights are shining in your direction. They're big and they're bright. You see them for a long way away. And if they're coming towards you, they can mislead people into thinking that they are alien craft. And until you know what they are UFOs, they are UAPs, they are unidentified. And I've been in events before where we have all been looking at that. What is that? What is that? And then it comes close to us and then it goes over the top of us and it's an airplane. And then we see the navigation lights and we see the collision lights. There is a lot of misidentification. And people have sent me videos lots of videos over the last couple of weeks saying, what do you think this is? And when you get to the end of the video and it goes over the top of you and you see the silhouette of it being an airplane, it's like, well, yeah, these are not aliens. This is just a regular human-made aircraft. So there's clearly a lot of misidentification. Are any of these drones or things, these UAPs, these UFOs, are any of them alien-controlled craft? Now, that's a key question. And I'm going to say that based on what I've seen, probably 95% of them are not alien. One or two of them, some reported sightings, do seem to be of craft that have characteristics that seem to have alien technology. They have the ability to suddenly accelerate away, or they are sensing when eyes are on them and they're going dark. So there do seem to be a small number out there that might have alien tech. But my best guess for that is probably they're human-made, but they are alien tech, human-made, reverse-engineered technology, and the industrial military complex or the big people out there with all the secrets, with all the power, with all the knowledge, with all the technology, they're going in there just to see what's going on. It could be that we've got one or two of our alien friends popping in there just to see what is all this fuss in the skies, what is going on. But this is clearly not an alien operation. This is not an alien invasion. If it is, it's one of the slowest alien invasions that you could possibly ever imagine. No, that's not what's happening. This is not an alien thing. This is a human thing. So the question then becomes, well, what is the human thing? Who are the humans? What is going on with these drones? And I'm going to go through one or two possibilities. The question of foreign adversaries has come up. Could this be China, Russia, other people coming in from other countries to do some kind of surveillance? Well, if they were doing that, they would turn off their navigation lights. They would turn off all of their lights. They would be more stealthy. These drones, these human-made craft, they're not being very stealthy. And so that kind of rules out foreign adversaries. It also doesn't make sense for a foreign adversary, so many foreign adversarial drones to be coming into our airspace. They would be being shot down as soon as they leave our airspace, but that's not what is happening. These drones are clearly human-made, and they are clearly being piloted or controlled by people who are non-adversarial to this country. So then the question becomes, well, maybe one other thing. Could they be like privately owned, like hobbyists going out there with their drones? Absolutely, a lot of them are going to be exactly that. You know, if somebody's a drone hobbyist and there's this big drone frenzy going on, then they're all going to go outside. They're going to fly their drones up. They're going to zoom around and pretend to be part of the situation, or they're going to be exploring to see, well, what is going on? So that's definitely going on as well. But there is something stronger than that. There's something stronger than that going on, because these drones are not isolated to just one location. And a lot of these drones are big. They're like military-sized drones. They are big organization, like 3-letter organization kind of drones flying around out there. Something is going on. So I can think of two possibilities. And I'm going to tell you again up front, I do not know the answer. I have no knowledge. I have friends, I have informants, people in the military, and I've talked to them, and they have suspicions, but they have no knowledge. I'm going to tell you what the two main possibilities are. One possibility is that and this is not my idea, this has been suggested by other people, but it makes the most sense. There is some kind of threat. If there was some kind of threat, like a nuclear weapon had gone missing, or there was the possibility of a nuclear weapon, or some kind of weapon of mass destruction, or even less destruction but still harmful, if there was the possibility that a weapon like that had been smuggled onto US soil, then they would be out there looking for it. And if they don't know exactly where it is, then they might be scanning using drones. And if it was radiological in nature, then that would be emitting radiation that could be detected from above by drones. And the lower altitude, the clearer that signal would be. So drones would seem to be the ideal way of looking for a nuclear weapon that was in the hands of a foreign adversary or terrorists, or even somebody in our own country that wanted to cause destruction. That is a plausible possibility. I have no proof of that. I have no evidence of that, but it fits with what's going on. Now, I live in California. I live up on a remote mountain side. And yesterday, I had something that I hadn't seen here before in all the time I've lived here. And that was a helicopter with a huge, big camera sensor assembly underneath it, scanning up and down the valley below below to the side of this mountain. I hadn't seen that before. Now, it could be that, I don't know, some convict had escaped and they were running around looking for a criminal or something. It could be. But there seems to be a national and even international increase in the number of drones. They seem to be looking for something. And so I think that's a reasonable hypothesis. And there seems to be a lot of evidence to suggest that that could well be possible. I guess what this means for you is just keep an eye on the news. Keep an eye on the news for any warnings that there might be any threats in your area. Don't think you need to be scared. I'm not trying to scare people, but I think it might be a sensible idea for people, especially in the locations where there are drones, to put some things in your car ready so that you could leave if you needed to. If a weapon were exploded, having a good supply, a couple of weeks supply of water and food and warm blankets, just the essentials, first aid kit, throw those in the car ready to go just in case. I think that might be sensible. The other possibility, if it if it could be more sinister, probably is a bit more sinister, and that is that there is a manipulation going on. And yes, it's a manipulation. It could be. I'm not saying this is true. This is another theory that fits the observed reality. There could be a manipulation going on, and it would be a manipulation of the general population in order to manipulate governmental people in the government, politicians, political parties, Congress, perhaps. Let me give a little bit of background for that. And again, I want to repeat, I don't know that this is true, but this is another reasonable possibility. There are in the past, the people with the greatest power in the world were leaders of countries. That's no longer true. The people with the greatest power in the world are the very rich, heads of companies, heads of industries, those people with alien tech, those people with military assets that are alien tech. These are non-localized powers. These are not countries. In the past, it used to be that kings, queens, leaders, whether they were democratic or dictators, they would basically have control of their countries. And we no longer have that. We now have situations where the people with the greatest power are those who have alien reverse engineered technology. And they've had that for at least 70 years, 70. And people with huge amounts of money, and you can see it in the news, you can see it in politics, people with large amounts of money are in a better position than others to gain power, positions of power. And they're in a sort of a battle at the moment with the democracies of the world, and they're trying to get more power. And I think that the drone situation could potentially be a power play. And the way that it works is they create this big threat using their tech, using their drones, using their power worldwide, but definitely in the US. They throw out all of these drones and they show, sorry, I'm getting strange noises in my home. They show the population and governments, politicians, that there is some kind of threat that we seem to have no power over. And that then is a ploy to have the governments, the elected governments, the official governments, give them more power, more funding to their secret dark projects, programs, and the power is therefore siphoned even more away from the leaders of countries, the leaders of states, into the people with the real power. This is also taking pressure off them, because the pressure's on them right now with all these congressional hearings and oversight committees trying to pass laws that would force them to give power, give alien tech, give their knowledge, their findings, give everything that they've worked for 70 years to accumulate, just give it away to governments, to elected officials. And those people in power, those secretive people in power, they don't want that. And this is taking the attention off of that, and also giving them more weight to say, look, we're needed. We need to have this secrecy. We need to be able to have power to go into situations like this and do something about it. So it could be a manipulation. So those are the two possibilities. There could be official searching for some kind of threat, some kind of terrorist threat, perhaps like nuclear weapons, or it's a power play where everybody's being manipulated by the people who are in charge of the world. But as I say, it's not alien. Aliens don't do things like this. Aliens don't dress up as drones or their craft. They don't. This is not the way that aliens work, and I know quite a lot of them, so I'm pretty confident that at least that part of this is true. So that's my little input on drones. Now I'm going to get back onto the subject that was advertised that I was going to be talking about, and that is thinking and an evolution of thinking. Now, I started this last week, in last week's show. But it doesn't matter if you weren't here for last week's show. I'm just going to pick up where I left off, and that's okay. Just so people understand, last week I talked a little bit about the history of thinking on this planet, of how thinking is similar to processing in a computer. Thinking is processing in our brains. And therefore, our thinking skills have developed over the years, over the 4.6 billion years on this planet, of this planet's existence, as brains have developed, as neural networks have developed. We need a structure in order to think. We need a structure in order to process. In a computer, that structure is the CPU, central processing unit. In biological organisms on this planet, that structure is our brains. And so the first neural networks came into existence on this planet, at least the first terrestrial ones came into existence on this planet about 600 million years ago in organisms like jellyfish. And they've been developing these neural networks have been developing for millions of years since into the brains that we have today. And we've just got to the stage in our history where we have the ability to think well enough, we're intelligent enough to be able to figure out how to determine truths that are not directly obvious to us. Human beings are quite good at, when we see a cow, we can identify it as a cow because we're seeing it. When we see and hear thunder and lightning, we know that there's thunder and lightning because we can see it, we can hear it. But when there are things going on that we can't see, that are not as obvious, like who put us here? Is God real? What happens when we die? Why have I just caught a disease? Why am I dying? That sort of question that we don't have an obvious answer that we can see, that we can't get direct proof of, then in the past, throughout our history, we haven't been very good at coming up with answers to those questions, and we resort to accepting things as being true without proof. We resort to believing in stuff, and we can believe in anything. And over the course of our history, anthropologists have estimated that human beings have believed in over 18,000 gods, goddesses, deities. Clearly, they're not all true. Clearly, they're not all real. And over the course of our history on this planet, we have believed things like when we get ill, it's because that person over there did black magic on us. I mean, that was one of the reasons why the witch trials happened, because people were getting ill and they were blaming it on that person over there that doesn't like them. And so what did they do? They accused them of witchcraft, and immediately upon accusation of witchcraft, they would be put in prison and had to wait several months for their trial. Sometimes that didn't happen for years. And invariably, in order to get out, in order to not be killed, those people that were in jail were accusing others around them of being co-conspirators, co-witches, and it escalated into thousands of people being killed because of incorrect beliefs. That's the history of humanity. And if you look at how we are today in our world, we're still the same. We still accept most of what most people believe has not been proved. Most of what most people accept as being true has not been proved. It's still a belief. Are we going to evolve past that? You know, we don't have to make mistakes. We don't have to make mistakes of accepting things as being true that are not true. We can simply know that we don't know something. So that's where we are today. That's the human species today. And today, it is a bit different from in the past because we now have the problem that we have enough technological capability that we can destroy our species. We can destroy the planet. We have the ability to destroy the planet. We have nuclear weaponry. We have fossil fuel industries churning out greenhouse gases. We have the ability to destroy ourselves very, very easily. As I've said before, we have over 12,000 nuclear weapons ready to go right now. And all we need is one person without the moral fortitude or the intelligence or the wisdom not to use them, and we have World War III. This is a real possibility. Okay, I'm not trying to scare people. I'm just observing the reality of the situation we're in. So if we can't get a handle on our thinking right now, if we can't become more enlightened right now so that we can understand the truths, then we're not going to do so well. And I'm going to come back to that in a minute. But we're at a critical juncture. We're at a critical moment in the history of humanity on this planet. Now, the way that we determine what is true is we have to be able to observe something ourselves in person with our own eyes, with our own knowledge, in order for us to prove to ourselves that it's true. So let's say we see a UFO land in front of us. Assuming we're not intoxicated or otherwise impaired, then we can accept that UFO as being true to the same level of proof that we accept anything as being true. You see a car driving down the road, we accept it as being true. If we see a UFO land in front of us, we can accept that as being true because we have direct knowledge of it. That is something that we're good at, direct proof. But what happens if a friend of yours comes to you and shows you a photo on their phone of a UFO and says, "Hey, look, there's a UFO here. I took this photo last night." Are we going to believe that person? Can we know that person? Can we know that that person saw the UFO? Well, we don't have direct knowledge of that, the substance of that evidence. So we can't know it. Even if we've known our friend for a long time, even if we trust them, trust is like belief. It's not infallible. Sometimes you trust people and they disappoint you. So that's the situation that we need to then engage in a higher level of thinking, a higher level of proving. We need to utilize something like the scientific methodology, like the scientific method, in order to, well, I'll tell you the basic steps. The basic steps are, if you can prove that some evidence is reality, and then you can prove that the evidence is equivalent to a hypothesis, the hypothesis being that let's say your friend saw a UFO. If you can prove that the evidence is equal to reality, and if you can prove the evidence is equal to the hypothesis, then you have proved that the evidence is equal to the hypothesis, and you've proved it. It's kind of simple math, but it takes time, it takes effort, it takes energy, it takes higher level thinking skills. We can do it, but basically what it requires us to do is to prove that evidence to be true. And people are not very good at taking the time to prove evidence to be true. You'd need to look at her phone and look through the photos and check that it was taken in sequence and that it wasn't downloaded to the phone with, Photoshop imagery in there. You would need to prove stuff. We can do that. We have got to the level of intelligence where we can do that. The question is, are we going to do that? Now, science has been doing that for a few hundred years, 200 or 300 years, in quite a big way. At the start of the Industrial Revolution, that was sort of seeded by an increase in scientific and technological knowledge and capability. But that's only a few people in the world the making those scientific discoveries. Are we as a species capable of embracing that way of thinking? If we can, then we can understand the truths in this world. We can prove things, we can know what we know, and we can know what we don't know, and we can survive. If we can't get a handle on this, then we've got a big problem. I have here a quote from Carl Sagan, and I think I've said it before on this show, but I'm going to read it out again, and I'm going to read the whole thing out. It's food for thought. Carl Sagan once said, we've arranged a society based on science and technology in which nobody understands anything about science and technology. And this combustible mixture of ignorance and power, sooner or later, is going to blow up in our faces. I mean, who is running the science and technology in a democracy if the people don't know anything about it? Science is more than a body of knowledge. It's a way of thinking. If we are not able to ask skeptical questions, to interrogate those who tell us something is true, to be skeptical of those in authority, then we're up for grabs for the next charlatan, political or religious leader who comes ambling along. It's a thing that Jefferson lay great stress on. It wasn't enough, he said, to enshrine some rights in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. The people had to be educated, and they have to practice their skepticism and their education. Otherwise, we don't run the government runs us. That was Carl Sagan, and that was, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago. And a lot of you will be listening to what I'm saying and thinking, hang on a second, that sounds a bit familiar. That's very similar to the situation we're in today. So, where do I want to go with this? I want to talk about science, and I want to support the idea that true science is a very good thing, because true science uses logical thinking. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people in this world who are very anti-science. And there are a few different reasons for this anti-science feeling that a lot of people have. And I'm going to tell you what I think some of those reasons are. There's a few different reasons why some people are anti-science. And I'm just going to encourage people here not to be anti-science. And if you are, maybe just go away and think about it. Maybe go away and learn a little bit of science, because we're so privileged to have this scientific knowledge. You know, we're all trying to understand the universe. Well, look in a science textbook. That's a way to understand the universe in a way that people have not had for 300,000 years. So, yeah, why do people have this anti-science sentiment? One reason is science is hard. It's known in school that science is one of the harder subjects. And most people tend to prefer what is easy, what is quick, what is simple. You know, it's just the way we are. We like to have an easy life. And so people just don't want to go into, this requires me to think. I do that when people give me a mathematical equation or a problem, and they say, Rupert, what's 36 times 3? And I'm like, oh God, my brain's just turned off because you're asking me to think. I do that. And science is doing that to people as well. There's another reason. When people don't understand something, and science is tricky to understand. When people don't understand something, and it's not just science, when people don't understand anything at all or anybody, they feel suspicious of it. They feel sometimes fearful of it. They sometimes feel diminished by it, maybe outsmarted by it, maybe jealous of it in some way. Science has a history of discovering realities also. We have a history, science has a history of disproving the things that many people believe in. There has been a conflict for hundreds of years between science and religion, because every once in a while, science will come up with something that it proves as being real that is contradictory to religious belief. Therefore, there are many people whose beliefs are important to them who feel threatened by science, who see science as an enemy. I don't want to insult people. I don't like causing disharmony. You and I don't need to get into a disharmonious situation by having a public argument. But maybe if you're a religious person out there who still doesn't accept that the Big Bang happened or that evolution is real, maybe you could see the wisdom in asking questions. If you're worshiping somebody who doesn't want you to ask questions, who just wants you to blindly believe in something, is there wisdom in that? Shouldn't you be isn't the truth something that is valuable? Maybe you should go out there and research some of those things that your beliefs are telling you are incorrect. Because I will tell you for a fact, the Big Bang has been absolutely 100% proved for, I don't know, at least 60 years. Evolution has been proved for something like 160 years. These things are real. These things are genuine. And if we can't get a handle on something like climate change, which has been proved 84 years ago as being true, then we're not going to make it. So I encourage people to embrace science, or at least to be open to science a little bit more. Beliefs and faith act as very strong obstacles to the asking of questions, to logical thinking, and therefore to an openness towards science. But then we've also got powerful companies and political movements around the world who deliberately seed a distrust of science in order to promote their unethical agendas. They deliberately spread disinformation about anything to do with science: viruses, vaccinations, masks, 5G. It used to be smoking, food choices. There's a big one. The wrong food choices is how most people on the planet die. It's the #1 cause of death. It's something like the #1, #2, #3, #5, and #6 main reasons why people die is because people are being fed disinformation about the food that they're eating, and they're eating unhealthy food. You can go away and gain knowledge about this, not by listening to other people's beliefs, not by listening to what other people are telling you, like me, at least not believing what I say, but by doing your own research. Go away and research it, not on YouTube, but in from scientific papers. These companies are spreading disinformation about fossil fuels. Oh my goodness, it's terrible. The fossil fuel industry, they're being put in charge of the big COP, United Nations annual climate change meetings. They're being led for the last 2 years by fossil fuel industry representatives. And they're using these big international conferences with world leaders from all around the world to push the importance of continuing to burn coal and natural gas and to drill. It's absolutely appalling, and it's making it very hard for us to make any progress at all with respect to climate change. Energy generating technologies. We've had green energy, renewable energy resource technology for at least 100 years. I could go to a hardware store, buy the equipment, and make myself a renewable generator. I mean, it's simple science. It's electromagnetic induction. It's something you can learn in high school. Well, maybe, it depends what high school you go to, but it's like 17-year-old, 18-year-old level physics. Particle accelerators, airplane contrails, electric vehicles. There's so much disinformation. There's so many decisions people are making in their lives that they don't know the science of it. But we are voting in democracies on issues that are science related. We're voting away the future of this planet based on what people with money are telling us to do, and those people are making money by destroying the planet. So it's, I sometimes probably sound like I'm getting too emotional or passionate about this situation, and I've got to be careful because I just want to feed people knowledge and facts, but it can be a little bit infuriating. It can lead to heightened emotions when you see the planet slipping away from us, when the knowledge is just there for the taking. Just people need to take that step towards embracing it. People believe disinformation. So we should never assume that politicians or company leaders are telling the truth about science. We should never assume that the scientists who work for them are being honest about science. Scientists are just people, and if somebody's feeding the scientists lots of money, sometimes those scientists can be led to be immoral in the knowledge, in the disinformation that they're putting out. But none of this means that established science is wrong or unreliable. Established science is correct because it's been proved. That is what established science is. The science that I learned like 120 years ago when I was in high school, that science is solid science that's still correct today. It was proved. A lot of people think that, well, science believes one thing and then 5 years later it believes another, and then 5 years later it believes another. That's the impression that a lot of people have about science, but that's not real science. That's the science that people push in the adverts that you watch on TV. That's not real science. That's the science that people push in political campaigns. That's not real established science. So I recommend that if you want to understand more about these issues, go out and buy an actual science textbook, like a university physics textbook, because, you know, that's established science. And bring it down to high school level, if you like. Probably not from the US, because the US, the education system is being pushed more and more and more in the wrong direction, but maybe from the UK. Go and buy a GCSE science textbook from England. It's going to cost you a lot less money as well, because education in England isn't about profit. Education in England is about helping people, educating people. So we've got about 10 minutes of this show left. I'm going to talk a little bit about the survival of our species, and then I'm going to talk about where thinking is going in our future. If we are to save ourselves as a species and as individuals, then we need to advance our thinking skills in the following ways. Recognize how susceptible humans are to being manipulated by other people, and stop believing anything that anyone says. Recognize that none of our beliefs are valid and discard them all. The things that we believe in might be true, but believing in them is invalid. Knowing them to be true is valid, or knowing that we don't know if they're true is valid. But accepting them as being true without logical proof, that's invalid, and that leads to mistakes, and that's why we're in this situation. Learn how to think logically. Learn science, not from YouTube videos, but from educational textbooks or from actual scientists. Go to a university and talk to the scientists there. Ask them. Go to them and ask them a question. Say, I want to understand if 5G is harmful. How can you direct me to somebody that can help me? And they probably will. They're interested in spreading knowledge. They like spreading knowledge. That's why the professors are there. Research aliens and the paranormal, because those realms contain truths that science hasn't yet got to. Doesn't mean science is wrong about them. It means science hasn't yet got that far, but we can get that far. I talk to it might sound silly to say it, but I talk to aliens almost every day. I feel them around me, and I've had multiple occasions of logical proof that they're with me. Just 2 or 3 days ago, I felt them come in to me while I was in a Zoom meeting, and I stopped and I said, whoa, they just came, they're here right now. And a couple of psychics in the meeting, they could see them when they appeared. There was a Pleiadian, there was a reptilian. We're friendly with all beings. I'm friendly with all beings. And there was an Eben Ebens are lovely. You should get to know Ebens. Research aliens and the paranormal, but don't accept any of it as being true unless you can prove it logically. There is logical proof for these things out there. You can logically prove that there's life after death. You can logically prove that we can heal spiritually. You can logically prove that aliens are real, that UFOs, alien craft, all that stuff, that's all out there. You can logically prove that. Acquire knowledge from the ground up using your own thinking skills. You can't know anything. You can't prove to yourself anything. Sorry, you can't know anything unless you prove it to yourself. You've got to prove it to yourself. You can't rely on what other people say. You can't rely on anybody telling you the truth or leading you in the right direction. You have to build your own knowledge from the ground up. And you can listen to people, hopefully like me, who will guide you in the right direction to be able to start doing that. And that's what I'm trying to do here, is I'm trying to teach people how to gain their own knowledge, but don't just believe what people are saying out there. You literally can't believe anything that anybody tells you. And that's a crazy situation to be in, because it's the opposite to what we're taught. We're taught to trust people, to have faith in people, to believe people. That's what all like the children's shows in the US, at least, that they teach people, they encourage, have faith in people and everything will be okay. No, that's the exact opposite to what you should be doing. Doesn't mean you should treat people badly. Doesn't mean you shouldn't give people a chance. But you should go in there with no expectations, knowing that anything that anybody says might not be true. And if we could do that, then maybe we would stop getting into situations where we're conflicting with each other and fighting with each other over things that are not true. When you can't prove something, be okay with knowing that you don't know. Only share information with people that you've logically proved to be true. It's possible that you have wisdom. And if you do, then sharing that wisdom with others is a good thing. But only if it's real, only if it's true, only if it's correct. The people out there in the paranormal and UFO world who go out there and have hundreds of thousands of people who are spreading information that is not true is astonishing to me. So let's think about the future of thinking. Our past is belief-based. Our future is knowledge-based. In the distant future, our descendant species will see beliefs and faith as intellectual invalidities that only primitive species possess. Our brains in the future will have much greater processing or thinking capabilities. And those greater processing or thinking capabilities will enable us to think more logically, know more truths about reality, and develop more advanced technologies. Our lives, therefore, will be considerably more easy. We probably won't need to go out there and do a lot of work. We can enjoy our lives more. Our lives will be more comfortable, more peaceful, more harmonious. There is unlimited energy out there for us. And with our knowledge of technology, renewable technology, we can utilize that. We've got the technology to do it today. We just don't have the thinking skills to embrace it, to recognize who is telling the truth and who's lying to us, and vote accordingly, and embrace the politicians out there who actually have a vision of the future that is taking us in a positive direction. Our lives could be easy, comfortable, peaceful, harmonious, and fulfilling. This is what it's going to be like for our descendant species in the future. Now, I'm not talking about human beings, because human beings, we've shown that our thinking skills are not there. We just seem to not be capable of doing it. Individuals, yes, have been shown to ascend to levels of knowledge and thinking, understanding the universe and being in harmony with others, individuals, yes, sometimes small pockets of communities, but as soon as you get more than about 10 people in a group of people, you end up bringing in somebody with darknesses that start tearing apart all the good that you're doing. What do I think the future is going to be like for us, for humanity? As I've said, I do think that individual human beings can, in today's world, with sufficient openness, intelligence, learning, and dedication, get these benefits. We can acquire the thinking skills and we can benefit from the things that they provide. However, becoming that enlightened is not something that I think our species as a whole could do. The structure of our brains and our evolutionary programming, our instincts, our inability to shake the need to hurt people, it would require a paradigm shift that's almost impossible for most people to make. But if you are understanding the things that I'm saying, then it's within your power to ascend to the levels of thinking that I'm talking about. If you would like to learn more from me, if you would like to support what I'm doing, if you would like to try to get more involved with this ascension to the next level of our species, if you would like to be part of the move, the evolution to the next species, which we can be a part of, then please consider joining me in my Patreon group, the Galactic Wisdom Patreon group. I think that next week there probably won't be a live show. There will probably be a pre-recorded show streaming because we're in the holiday season. So I would like to wish everybody, whatever holidays you celebrate, have a wonderful, wonderful, happy period of time over the next week or two. I hope your New Year's are amazing and wonderful. And I wish you all peace and love and happiness. You take care. Goodbye for now.